ahead and start it. So please let other people know and ask them to get onto the call and prepare your questions. So my name is Eric Slater. I'm a Chicago Transit Authority bus operator, 17 years now. My coworkers have elected me 3 times to be their executive board member, and my name's on the ballot for president of A2 Local 241, and our election is going to be on December 6th and December 20th for the runoff. Again, I'd like everyone to try to encourage other workers to get on this call. I'll make some opening remarks, and I'll answer as many serious questions as I can. I will not respond to personal attacks, nor will I make any. Okay, let's get to work. I want to start by congratulating our board members and stewards who are being reelected unopposed. Let's start fresh. I have no ill will. Please reach out to me and talk. Let's try to get an hour talking to each other and see how the union can help you to do your hard work of serving your coworkers. I think we have much more we agree on than we disagree on. Okay, to current President Hill, I wish you a good and fair campaign. If I lose, I will continue to help my union under your leadership, as I've done for the past 2 administrations. I expect the same from you and your supporters if we should win. I ask for your grace to ensure a strong transition that allows our union to thrive under these new conditions and under a new vision. I also want to reach out to the Tommy Sams administration. It did many good things, including its ability to reach out to the retirees and former officers of our union when our union was much stronger. I also want to reach out to the Jefferson administration, as well to its stronger former executive board. Let's put aside our differences and rebuild the union that we love. Okay, I want to challenge some of the other workers who are running for president or the other officers of other officer positions. If any of us should win these positions, I think we can agree on a few things. 1, we should print and distribute a physical contract book for all members within the first month of our administration. It's wrong that we've gone through 2 contracts and this previous administration, Hill administration, without any contract book. We should be organizing operator rap sessions and maintenance worker fire drills to study the contract together within the first month or 2. We should be getting the contract book, bringing it to the properties, and organizing a formal study of it, or at least sections of it that are important. I also call on you. I ask the other people running for office, if you should win, hold classes for new assistant stewards in the first 2 months. I challenge all those running for elected office, especially the officer positions, to refuse to accept privilege over your coworkers. I ask, do what we're doing, which is accept your previous salary as a worker or an average wage of our coworkers, whichever is higher. I and James Rufus, running for second vice president, have already agreed publicly not to take the money. Okay, so I want to get off the ground running as soon as the swearing-in ceremony installation of officers in about 6 weeks. So here is a proposed timeline of what we can accomplish. Okay, on the first day, the union will take a much different stance towards management. We will continue respectful dialogue and continue to attempt to assist our coworkers and retirees where management and the union agree. However, respect goes 2 ways. If management continues to disrespect our coworkers and our union, then we'll be forced to change our attention not to these backroom discussions with management, but instead to our members, to our allies, and spend our precious time on them. And what that can do is start to build the power to command respect from management. In the first 2 weeks, we will invite all members to attend free union steward and labor education classes. We will attempt to run the classes so that different shifts can attend. I intend to lead the union to give certification, union shirts, patches, and business cards to each executive board member, shop steward, and assistant shop steward. This new administration will focus on supporting you as a steward because you are the heart of the union. This is perhaps the most important thing a union can be doing. This is the most important part of our program. I ask you to speak to your family and sign up for these classes. And if at the end of the classes you want to make a commitment to your coworkers and become a union shop steward, in my opinion, that's one of the most important things that we can be doing, the most honorable things that we can be doing. There's no limit to the amount of stewards the union can have. The more of us get this training, the more of us learn this knowledge, the easier it will be to share the burden of the work of the union. The stronger we'll be. Okay, within the first 2 months, this new administration will assemble all stewards for a monthly Stewards Council meeting, where stewards will discuss their experiences, their victories and defeats, learn from one another, build trust amongst each other, and raise the union consciousness so that we can really defend our contract, really defend our coworkers at all work sites. Within the first few months of this new administration, we will begin a transformation of the union from a tiny group of labor officials making backroom deals with management. Instead, we will reform the union. We will reform the union on the basis of rank and file committees. This is actually how the bylaws and constitution are structured currently. The union is supposed to function in this way. Okay, so how's that going to work? Per the authority of the president that I have, I will direct the union to form multiple committees, such as a PIC committee, a retiree committee, a committee of laid off, fired workers, a solidarity committee, a contract strike committee, etc. If workers can please put suggestions for additional committees here in the chat as well. If you're viewing this on recording, you can send it to me via messenger or text as well. So in practice, our union can offer a convenient location to have these meetings. We can provide refreshments and even childcare, which I see as a priority. Committees will be asked to keep minutes and submit reports and make recommendations to membership. Members can make motions during mass membership meetings to adopt the recommendations of the committees, etc. So this is the basic format that I see the union functioning. It will take some practice to change it, but the new leadership will then be tasked once these processes are going through committees, through stewards' councils, through our executive board, through our mass membership meetings. The leadership will then be tasked with organizing the membership to execute the will of the union on this basis of real worker democracy. A few ideas I'd like to run by you and see if you want to do it. I'd like to publicize a 1-800 number, or other free number, that people in the community can call the union if they want to help. I think we should reach out to the public and ask them if they would be willing to help us, if they support transit workers, if they want a good public transit system. One thing we can immediately do is ask for passengers to send their compliments to us instead of CTA management. And so we'll get some volunteers. We may have some workers to do this. We'll put it in a database. We'll then put it on union letterhead, a nice form. I'll sign it, and we'll distribute those compliments to our coworkers. So next time a manager tells us that we don't know what we're doing, that we're a bad bus operator, we can show them our stack of compliments on union letterhead. I think this is also useful because it will simultaneously keep a database of public contacts who support us, and we can invite them to our solidarity committee meetings, our public actions, etc. It can be part of a larger contract campaign to win support within the public, to push back the violence against us, among other things. Another thing I'd like to discuss with you, so I've been a board member for a long time, and I've seen a lot of dysfunctional executive boards, and I think that it would be useful immediately if the executive board meetings were open to members and retirees, active and retiree members, to observe and take notes. If we really need to, we could go to executive committee or even go off the minutes as often the board does if we have to. But most of the time, I think that we should just do everything open to our members. We don't have anything to hide. I think that would really help the union. Another thing I'd like to run by you guys is that stewards are currently, per our bylaws, not allowed to vote, and sometimes they're allowed in the board meetings, sometimes they're not. I think they should always be required to be in the board meetings. At the moment, per the bylaws, they can't vote, but they can speak. And I think that's important that we do that. I do support changing the bylaws so that the current stewards are made into executive board members with full voting rights. Okay, so before I take some questions, I want to say perhaps the most important thing. If you elect me, prepare for a disciplined struggle. If you vote for me, please let that vote be a promise to yourself that you will volunteer at least 2 hours a month of your precious time to your union. That could mean just attending and participating in the monthly membership meeting. It could mean joining whichever committee you find most interests you. It could mean participating in a mass action of your union. Please seriously consider and study this program of action, which is linked as well. Let's see if you guys can see it here. So this is the document I'm asking people to take a look at and study it. If you agree with it, print it out, sign it, take a picture of it, send it to me or to our campaign page. As much as possible, let's take back and reform our union on the basis of a shared vision. So this is what I'm proposing is the document that can help us to do that. Okay, we also have meetings every week, organizing meetings every Sunday on Zoom. I'll show you a picture of that as well. I'd like all members and retirees to attend this if we can. This is Sundays from 4 to 6 p.m. We have a link on our site as well. It's open to all HU Chicago Transit workers and invited guests and retirees. With respect for one another, we will discuss and plan how we can support and strengthen our unions. I see this as a way of transitioning into a new administration with really our feet running. And I really ask you to let people know about these meetings and help to make the decisions on what we're prioritizing. Okay, I'm going to take a few questions and try to answer them best I can. Let me see through here a little bit. Yep, April says print and know your rights with 3 things to do before talking to a manager, and let the members know they do not have to speak to a manager before going on duty. Good stuff. Yeah, that was one of the first things I did, April, when I first became actually before I was a shop steward. We did whatever new bus operator should know. And that's something I'm going to go dig up and publish. Everyone really loved that document. It was something, so every time new workers would be coming in, I'd hand them this document. That's a really good idea. Okay, Miguel says we will need a grievance committee with a 30-day turnaround time and resolution. So the grievance committee actually is not being done properly in the union currently. Per the bylaws, the grievance committee is supposed to be the top 5 officers: the president, first, second vice president, third vice president, recording financial secretary. That comprises the formal grievance committee. And the reason why that is so that people's grievances can't, at least are protected by that elected authority. So if someone's playing games and supporting their friends and there's a disparity of treatment, at least we can vote those people out of office if they're doing that. And unfortunately, that's been going on for quite a long time. The way that's supposed to happen is the grievance committee, the top officers are supposed to release the grievances to the executive board. The executive board is supposed to make a recommendation, discuss the grievances, make a recommendation to the mass members. And that's really not going on. It's really what's happening is there's a private grievance committee set up by the current president, and that's inappropriate because that breaks out of our democratic control of our union, and that means the grievances aren't really even being read in the mass membership meeting. So if the executive board doesn't agree with you because they don't like you for whatever reason, at least you can appeal to the mass members, and oftentimes the executive board is overturned, which is a good thing. I would just like to say that in many ways, we've been taught that the union is upside down. That the president is the highest, and then the executive board, and then the members. It's actually the opposite. It's the mass members is the highest part of the authority of the union, and we direct the executive board and the president to do our will. That's how it's supposed to function. And so the grievance is a good example of how that's upside down in the current administration and how we can start to rectify that. Okay, so there's another question. So with the attack on coworkers, what's your safety platform? That's from Mike Brown. Well, that's a really good question. So one thing I can say is what we're currently doing is not working. And what are we doing? We're trying to go to politicians. We're trying to put bills forward. Some of those bills don't really make much sense, like putting a police officer in every single bus. I don't think the population is going to accept the $80,000 or $100,000 job on the bus. I think what we can start to do, which really can work. Another thing I've heard is trying to trap the bus driver in the bus seat. I don't oppose that, but if someone really wants to hurt you, they will find a way to hurt you. What I'm proposing is we do quite a massive change in the direction of the union, which is publicly make it clear that we are separate from management. We're separate from the policies put forward by the Chicago Transit Authority, the Regional Transportation Authority. We're actually quite at odds with them on the front line. Almost every worker who's been here a few years can see how management mistreats us. I think we need to start making that public and explicitly go to the public, the passengers that ride the buses and trains with us, and say, look, we're on your side here. We're opposed to the way they're running public transportation. And furthermore, we're opposed to them making these massive cuts and squeezing us to go faster and more dangerously. And so what we can do is to go on campaigns to demand more workers to be hired to do this work, more union workers, good union jobs. And so the union is now seen as this positive social force within the city. It's seen as when you, let's say you're a bus operator and someone gets on the bus and says, hey, you have that nice uniform, you must be making good money, and they have this tension when you're required to ask for the fare. And a lot of violence is caused by this. The other major violence is because of the short quote unquote short staffing. But what we can say is, and publicly, or at least our union can say, and more of our rank and file workers can be saying this publicly, is that it ain't us. We ain't doing it. In fact, we're on your side. We're trying to get more good union jobs. And as this becomes more and more of a public issue, as more and more people see the bus workers union as a positive force in the city, then less and less of this violence will be directed to us, especially if many of our coworkers are rehired who've been fired unjustly, and many hundreds of workers are actually getting jobs. And that's going to require that we transform this job to a job people want. And that's going to require us to strengthen our union to be able to push back against management and to have our independent will as an organization, as our union. So it's not a simple question, Mike. That's a good question. Of course, violence has been increased in society. I can go on about this quite a bit, but the major thing I'm arguing is, instead of seeing the passengers as only an enemy, as something in which we have work that we have to do, I think we should start seeing the passengers as a potential ally to make public transportation better and our working conditions better. I think that's fundamentally one of the things our labor union can do. Okay, next, I think April's the next one on the list here. I'm going to try to do a progressive stack here. She says an operator should not be met with adverse action before going on duty. Yeah, so I hear that a lot from my coworkers. They start the shift, they just checked in the window, and they see they have discipline hearing, and they might not even know what it is. Back when I started, we had a list, and you could, if it wasn't like an emergency situation, they would just put on a list, and within 7 days you'd have to come in. I'm generally in favor of that, because you can say, okay, shoot, something happened. Like maybe someone called in on me, or maybe I didn't see it, but maybe that car hit me, and you think about it for a minute, and you go talk to your shop steward. and you say, hey, what is this about? So shop steward looks at the list, and hopefully the shop steward's looking every day. And if there's more shop stewards, it's a lot easier to do that. And they go and they look. They might even look at the film. They might immediately say, you know what, this is bogus. I can see this right away. This shop steward says, this happens a lot. And they go back to you and say, look, don't worry about it. We saw it. It was this. It was bogus. Don't worry about it. Just go about your day, right? That's the way it should be. And a lot of discipline is that way. But instead, what happens is they bring you in. You don't know what's going on. You're stressed out. You're in front of the manager by yourself. Often people don't know their rights to a union rep. You have the wine garden rights to have union representation. Anytime you think or you believe that you may be disciplined or that your working conditions may be harmed, you have the right to remain silent until a union rep comes and is a witness and can assist you. That's a very important part of the union, but it's actually not. It doesn't happen in practice because we are so short. We have so few stewards. So few executive board members, they're actually on the bus themselves, they're exhausted, that in practice is very hard to get a union rep. So I think we can actually work on that specifically, especially if we get a shop stewards council or a stewards council up and running in the first few months of the administration. Next question. So Miguel says yes to a 1-800 free number, right on. Keep the questions coming. And he says that those with many accommodations will get a plotter and a gift at the mass membership. Yeah, I'm okay with that. We'd have to discuss how much that costs, make sure we run it through the board. Will we live Zoom mass membership meetings? Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I don't have a problem with that necessarily. I think we should have a further discussion about that, about whether people feel comfortable doing that publicly, but especially during the pandemic, and I understand it's gotten worse and recently, that if we're going to close down the mass membership meetings, we certainly should do it by Zoom or some other electronic meeting. And really, unfortunately, the last few years, that the pandemic has been an excuse to make the union much more totalitarian, much more authoritarian. And we haven't been able to use the democratic forms of our union to make decisions. It's been a real bad situation for our union. So Mike Brown says, are you against working with politicians? Well, I'm in favor of building our strength, so that if we must work with politicians or discuss with them, then we do so from a position of strength and power. Right now, what we do is we have these, or for the last really 10 or 15 years even, we've had someone who's been assigned to go downstate to talk with politicians behind closed doors. And let's assume for a moment that that person has the best intentions. That really doesn't show the people who have the power that we have power. All right, it's just a discussion. If you come to the negotiations with management, with city officials, with politicians, we have to be able to show that we can mobilize our membership to take action. And that's not just voting. That's mobilizing to mass actions, to participate alongside the rest of the working class in the city, and if necessary, to protect our contract, to prepare possibly to stop the buses and trains if necessary. So if we're not on a footing to be able to do that, then talking with the politicians may get something for the people talking to them, but it doesn't necessarily help us. I think politicians can help sometimes when we have big mass actions. Sometimes, some of the politicians who are clearly talking our talking points and are in a way under the control of workers, not their political parties or otherwise, then they can stand with us and they can use their fame